We're going to start the session now because we need to finish a few minutes early to get down to the Adirondack room for the final session. Thank you.
Est-ce que vous... Ouais? Oh, oui. Sinon, vous allez commencer. Oui, oui, c'est correct.
Well, bonjour à tous. Once again, hello. We have had the pleasure to be together a few times already today, and it is not the end of it. My name is Marie-Claude Francoeur, for those who don't know yet, and I represent Quebec here in New England. I am very pleased today that we're going to be introducing the conversation, structuring and highlighting the culinary trails in Quebec. Quebec is home to over 2,000 businesses in the culinary tourism sector and counts over 55 culinary trails, making it a world-class agritourism destination. While each of the 22 regions in Quebec have their own culinary identity, as we learned earlier on today, there remains a need to standardize an approach to structure our culinary trails. A visitor searching for authenticity, discovery, and learning should be able to rely and discover a territory's cultural heritage through trails that are equally good in quality throughout the province. The Association de l'Agritourisme et du Tourisme Gourmand is the group filling this need. It supports regions for their culinary trails and their development and help them enhance the quality of the experience they provide while promoting the sale of local products. The association will also provide a support plan to help companies improve the experience offered and is developing tools designed for regional trail managers to concretely help them develop new trails and quality trail or improve the existing ones. Our next speaker, Aurore Lambert, a tourism development officer with the association, will explain their innovative model for the task at hand. Aurore, the floor and the mics are yours.
All right, merci beaucoup, Madame Francoeur. Thank you very much for this great introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. English is not my first language, so bear with me. I'm going to try to do my best. It's my first presentation in English. So we're going to talk about structuring and promoting high quality food trails in Quebec. Okay, so down is up. So agenda, I'm going to just talk really quickly about who we are, and then we're going to move to the heart of the presentation, which is our project. So we are, I'm going to say it, trying to say it in English. It's Agritourism and Food Tourism Association of Quebec. It's quite a mouthful, but we are, our role is to represent, develop, and promote the food tourism sector in our province. We also play a leadership in terms of implementing the provincial food tourism action plan, which is the document right here that I'm going to end up right after my presentation. And we also support our businesses in terms of their development, developing their offer and the quality of the experiences they're providing. So the organization I'm working for has been around for over 45 years, and we're recognized by our Ministry of Tourism. So it's really great for us to have that support, because it means we are really, we were able to develop quite a unique expertise in the field, and we're fully able to support our businesses. So our 5 roles, I've talked about it already a little bit, but it's represent the food tourism sector, assist our businesses in improving the quality of their products, develop the overall food tourism product and experience through services and attractions, implement the provincial food tourism action plan. By the way, the document is bilingual, so we're all covered. And finally, promote food tourism assets. So about a project, which is structuring and promoting high quality food trails. And when we say food trails, we're not meaning hiking trails, food experiences along the way, although it could qualify, but it's mostly, you take your car and you just drive in the countryside. So a little bit of background, just to give you a little bit of context. So in 2019, we did an opportunity study with regional players about the development, structuring, and promotion of interactive food trails. The idea behind that opportunity study was to look at what visitors who are staying in Montreal could do within a 2 hours radius in terms of culinary trails. And that opportunity study pointed the interest and the feasibility of such a project. So since then, our project evolved, but that's kind of the founding stone kind of our project. All right, back on. Also in our action plan, that project is part of our provincial action plan and is actually listed as a priority action. So as soon as I got into position in May 2021, we started working on that project because we realized it was really important to work on it earlier than later. And finally, but not the least, we got funding in May 2021 for that specific project. MAPAC is our Ministry of Agriculture, Fishery and Alimentation. And we're really grateful for the support that they're providing, not only for that project. So we're really happy about it. On the side, I just put it really quickly, some facts about the food tourism in our province. I'm just going to say really quickly that it's very diverse. We have over 2,000 businesses. And then you can read the rest later on the presentation. I'm just going to move on for the sake of time. So for our project, our initial observation were that there are already many existing food trails in Quebec. And they are all having varying level of quality. They were all in different development stages. As mentioned earlier, but Madame Francoeur, we have over 55 food trails in our province. They're all managed by different players, both regionals and locals, which is great. But they also have unequal financial resources, especially when it comes to promotion and funding in terms of maintaining the trails once it's up and running. So our idea was to gradually setting up a distinctive group of food trails in Quebec in the 22 tourist regions. And all those trails would have common features in terms of offer. And we'll talk about it later, so I'm just going to keep going. They would all have high quality visitor experiences. They would have a similar operating framework. They would be connected to the regional culinary identity, which is what we talked about this morning if you were at the presentation with Carl-Éric Gertin. And then they would all benefit from synergies in terms of promotion, both within Quebec and outside of Quebec. So the goal is to use that to go and promote Quebec on the international markets. So I've mentioned already a little bit, like the keyword is high quality trails, high quality experiences. And so we're working on a quality approach, obviously, that would include screening criteria to identify the businesses that would be able to join our project. It also has a professional organization and collaboration between partners. So we're talking about at the provincial, the regional, and the local level. We're all talking together. We would also provide training and support for businesses. I'm going to talk about it later. Once again, tools to assist regional managers, regional trail managers, to help them with their task of managing trails. Those trails would have high quality visitor experiences, once again. And the whole idea is to cooperate and share between businesses and regional partners. So it's not just talking to the region or the businesses, it's also them talking back to us and giving us feedback on what's happening. And finally, we really want to monitor and adjust our project so that long-term, we can adjust depending on the feedback that we're getting. So the project remains over the years. And finally, I really wanted to mention that the participation of businesses was really important. It relies on them and their desire to engage in a process of continuous improvement. So this is something that we really want to work with them over the next few years to work on the quality of their the experiences they're offering. So they need to be on board and they need to understand that. And yeah. So in terms of the common features I was talking about earlier, we're talking about attractiveness of food tourism products, not just agritourism, but the food tourism as a whole. So to show the diversity of what's existing, we're aiming at having not really one single product trails like a wine route or a beer route, although it could work if it's a really great initiative. But we really want to showcase everything that can be done in our province. We would like to integrate event and local marketing initiatives. So we're talking about, festival, public markets, Christmas market, all those things that happen year round that are not just happening in farms, but elsewhere as well. We would want, what our goal is to have trails that can be done year round so that depending on the season, we can adjust and change some businesses. So even though something is closed because, berry picking season is not there anymore, well, they still can do most of the trail during the winter. It's mostly going to be short trails, so day trips, although we could do 2 days if we have an accommodation in between so people can stay at. That would be in several regions. So our thinking is that visitors don't really care about boundaries. They're just going to keep going. So we're not going to stop at one region because this is the end of their boundaries. It's going to be essentially in food tourism, but also including gourmet attractions. I have a great graph right after, so I'm going to keep on. So as I mentioned, it could also offer accommodation and some attraction in other sectors. So like outdoors activities, cultural and heritage, because we know people, well, they like to eat, but they won't eat all day long. At some point, they got to do something to, burn those calories. And finally, a promotion that's focused on, once again, the culinary identity so that the trail could use that and highlight it at the same time. So that's my great background. It's really a great way to see in terms of businesses what we're looking at. So the heart really of our food trail project, they are so agritourism producers, artisan processors, restaurant and chef that are just offering local and regional product and dishes, but also shops offering local products. So that's the heart of our project. They're making up between 60 and 70% of the businesses. And then on that, you add another layer, which is the gourmet attraction. So once again, public markets, Christmas market, food hubs, food event, museum about biofood topics. That layer would be between 20 and 25%. And then the extra layer would be accommodation, outdoors activities, and cultural entertainment, which is complementary. So it's just to complete the trail. And that would be between 10 and 15%. Also, obviously, we would need a big effort on promotion to use that project. So we're talking about a strong brand image to represent the food trails of the different regions, so that it can become a point of reference both within and outside of Quebec. We would have a presence on the major websites of Quebec tourism industry partners. That's still to be we still have to work on it, sorry. And finally, a concerted strategy in terms of digital media and social network, because obviously in the 21st century, you can't really ignore that. So we still, that's something that we would have to work on. At the bottom, I just put it some primary benefit of this approach, but obviously there's a lot more to that. Those are the main two if we added to just list two of them, but there's a lot more benefits to it, both for visitors, for the regions, for Quebec as a whole as well. So if there's an interest for that, I can just, give it to you later. And so finally, before moving on to the next steps, I really wanted to talk about the approach that we've been taking on that project. So that little graph is just to show you there are 3 blocks of support that we're providing. The first one is for trail managers, so that we can help them with their workload on the trail management. So we're developing tools like a grid so they can, assess a business and help the business improve over time. Obviously, there's also support for business on the side with coaching on improving the customer experience. That's something that's going to come later in the project. And the phase or the block we are currently working on is the support for regions. And it's really great because I have some regions who are here in the room with me who have benefited from that coaching. But it's about helping them reflect on where they are and think about what comes next. And ultimately, those 3 blocks will help us integrate a food trail on our approach and then use that to position our industry on the international customer market. All the while being in line with the signature experiences. This is from our Tourism Industry Alliance, and they have 8 experiences to promote Quebec outside internationally, and 2 of them are in line with our project, which is Local Flavor and Roads to Discover. How am I doing on time? 3 minutes? Oh, I'm good. Good, awesome. All right, so as I mentioned, we're working on supporting the regions. So this is a personalized approach to the thinking of a region on food trails. The goal is to help them once again think about where they are, what's already existing in their region, what's working, what may need to be improved. So we're doing that with a consultant that's helping us. He's combing through tons of documents, and then he's kind of sometimes challenging the people around the table and maybe think a little bit differently or see things they may not have seen before, or they may have not think about before. So yeah, we're talking about strengths, weaknesses, and the direction that they want to go in the future. So as I mentioned, our project since 2019 evolved quite a bit. When we got funding in May 2021, we were not really thinking about the support for regions, but we quickly appeared that it was needed. We couldn't really go from defining criteria and then sending them over to the businesses so they would have to respect them. We needed to help and support the region in that process. So that's why we kind of tweak our project a little bit and added that step. And so it meets a need as it's mentioned, but it keeps also evolving on the coaching we're doing. So we did 4 this spring and we're doing 5 this fall, but there is no 2 coaching sessions that are the same. And it's really great because it's really based on the region we're meeting that day. And so just to summarize quickly, so to participate in our project, a region either improve an existing trail or it creates a new one if it wants. Yeah. Okay. And finally, about our next steps. So we still have to work on the support for businesses. So it's about meeting the eligibility criteria and quality standards. It's also to help them improve visitor experience. So that's something that's going to be done in collaboration with the region, depending on if they can do it. If not, then my organization will step in to help them through that. And we also have to talk about promotion and marketing. So once again, the brand image, and are we going to do a website? Are we going to do an app? We don't know yet. We still have to talk about it. We still have to decide. All those things are going to be done in collaboration with our regional partners. We have to work on an overall strategy, like who does what. And once again, all the time, at the same time, still being consistent with the effort of our Tourism Industry Alliance in terms of promoting local flavors and roads to discover. And so ultimately, our goal is to have our first food trails joining our project for the next tourist season in 2023. And finally, do I have one more minute? No? Okay. I just want to mention that this is not a mandatory project for regions. It's all based on their will to join it, and some are more ready than others, and it's fine. We can really coach 22 regions in 1 year, so we're just doing step by step, but they have to be on board, and we're not forcing them at all. And well, just my contact information if you have more questions. And I'm done. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions right now. We have an online person coming in, and we have another session, and we have to leave a little bit early to make it into the plenary session. Excellent.
Hi, my name is Eleanor McGrath, and with my husband, we own Springfield Farm, located in Apple Hill, Ontario, which is on the Quebec border or very close, and as well the Mohawk territory of Akwesasne, which straddles the US, Quebec, and Ontario. We are also on Mohawk territory. I am very delighted to speak to you today to join the conversation about agritourism, especially regarding culinary trails, which David Gillespie has been tremendous in pushing this forward to link all of us together. And I also want to, just before we begin, say thank you so much to Lisa Chase and to all her team who have made this conference possible, and by understanding that unfortunately I couldn't join in person as was hoped originally. So thank you, and I just want to begin by talking about the road less traveled. I will now attempt to share my screen, and forgive me if I take a few minutes, but I will do this hopefully successfully. There we go. So myself and David have been working together off and on for several years now, and we both share a passion for agritourism and equally have farms that are situated in regions that are not as well known. In Ontario, there is a very, I want to say almost famous place, the Prince Edward County, and Rebecca McKenzie of Culinary Tourism Alliance has worked for years and diligently and with many other clients worldwide to increase the knowledge of a region such as the Prince Edward County. It is actually situated a lot closer to Toronto, which is where I'm sitting right now. And Toronto is 4.5 hours, the city where we live, to our farm in Apple Hill. This is possibly something that should never have encouraged us to think about doing agritourism, because we're not as close to some of the major cities, and yet we are. Montreal in Quebec is only an 1.5 hour drive, and Ottawa is just 50 minutes north. But it's amazing when you are in a region such as ours that while it has huge history, culturally it has many languages, but most importantly it has Mohawk, French for the Franco-Ontarians, and English. And that is because it has a very diverse settlement history. The Scottish have arrived probably around 1795, and our stone house was owned by the MacDonnell family. Stone homes, as possibly you know if you're in the upstate New York area, are very popular. They're beautiful and they're unique because they were built by artisan stonemasons who had come over from countries like Scotland to build these new homesteads. And then we have a huge Franco-Ontarian population, which is only 20 minutes away from our farm, where in a town like Alexandria, there's only maybe 70% are speaking French as a first language. So when you have the Mohawk community, a Franco-Ontarian community, and an old settler community, there's many tick the boxes for getting people to get excited about visiting a region. And yet, sometimes I think there's louder voices. And so that's really what this conversation is about, is if you're a farm owner here today or listening in, is this something that you're thinking about? And are you already fortunate enough to be in near major cities, or possibly you have a very engaged economic development in your municipality that will assist? But oftentimes you're like us and you're starting afresh and you've come with the eyes of an outsider and you're looking at how your farm property or your region could really capitalize on agritourism. So that's really the focus of this conversation. As mentioned, we own our farm. We've owned it since 2014, and it's a beautiful place. We are learning farmers. We've actually just fortunately received our EcoCert certification for organic, vegetables, produce such as our oats. Very excited about this. But I always say we're a farm first, but part of what we really want to focus in on is an environmental farm oasis, and working in partnerships with Mohawk Council, St. Lawrence College, to really engage people on that issue of how, as a farm, we are, I almost want to say, a buffer to conventional farming in the region. We're certainly not making any statement about that, but I think that's really what people are looking for. They want a distinctive story, and that's something I would encourage you, and it changed for us many, many times over the years, but find that unique story that you want and can share with your visitors. So if I was asked in a nutshell to offer you what is it that we think we can offer a visitor, we have thankfully 120 acres to explore. 65 really are already in what's called a managed forest, but that includes a bush, a sugar bush in Canada and in Vermont where you are, New York State, a bush, it means your maple syrup production area. And then we have created trails with the help of a trapper, hunter, and this year just put in an 18-hole disc golf course that hopefully, as it is the fastest growing sport in North America, if not the world, will further engage the tourism to our region. You'll see in this slide, we have thankfully beautiful barns that are well over 100 years old. And that is something that I think people, when you ask what a farm looks like, and it's been said many times to me by others, so I'm not going to claim this quote, but most often a child will draw that iconic red barn. And I think we have to start cherishing as a community in agritourism, and maybe you're in Europe, you know that these barns of all types, stone, traditional, they're something that really people sort of hook their eyes on and want to see. And that is another thing about agritourism. You're offering something that no longer really is being made and certainly is hard to preserve. And that's where municipalities can come in to assist farmers, because it is not an inexpensive venture to restore a barn. I think one of the things I want to really encourage you is to look at your region. And this really is more to people that are in government that are attending or listening in, how they might engage agritourism. The dollars look great, but how do you get the farmers involved? And I think you, as a municipality, as a provincial body, our province needs to engage farmers by offering better incentives. It's one thing to say you have agritourism in a plan, in a local plan or a provincial or like a state plan, but it's another thing to find the farmers who say, you know what, I'm going to allow people to come on our property and engage with us and experience a farm firsthand. And for those that are actively doing agritourism, you already know that the cost of having the insurance, the cost of your time to engage those tourists, to have them come and visit you, sometimes is not going to offset or be seen as a financial gain for your farm. So how, as provincial or state or other regions in Europe, how do you actually make sure that the farmers who will want to do this, who will be excellent ambassadors and have a property that can really showcase the beauty of your region, tell that story? And I think that's something that always needs to be looked at and revisited. For example, in our region, or even in the province, to have a barn like ours possibly comes under building codes and issues that are really more for a modern barn, a steel construction, and not a post and beam with lovely board and batten, which is what the term is for the type of outer shell that we have on ours. And so we, like many, are restricted. We would have to rezone our farm. And in the province of Ontario, agricultural land cannot be rezoned. It certainly can't be rezoned at an inexpensive, easy little show up and do a change at your municipal office. You would have to hire someone and go through possibly $100,000 expense. So if I looked at that as a farmer, and then I looked at how few people visit our region, you have a total disconnect. And that is something that I think people need to work together. And that's where certainly I would encourage you, from an experience of Springfield Farm, is to work together with your municipalities, with your government levels, and make sure that agritourism actually can fly. It can be that fork in the road to get people to stay in your region and experiencing something new. So as I mentioned, the downtown to Apple Hill downtown, but we are not alone. I mean, we own a property. That's our dog Louie, by the way, an English setter. We have another dog, and but I do think there are many people. We've had people from Europe, from Norway, from France, and we've had, of course, a great group of American visitors over the years. But I think that we need to start recognizing farmers, that this is a busy season. For example, it falls in summer time, to tourists are looking for something to do. And at the same time, we're planting or we're harvesting. And how do you make this work? And again, it's the road less traveled, but let's make it more traveled and bring people together and make it affordable for the farmers to offer it. I think that is something also that needs to be drawn upon, is transparency and equitable revenue stream. Farmers these days, especially post-pandemic, are looking for other streams of income, and agritourism is a great fit. Sorry that I don't know if the video is on top of what I've written here in this PowerPoint, but that is available, I believe, online as well later. This is just a couple of snaps from last year. We hosted a Field and Feast event to highlight, we had to work within some of these municipal restrictions. But I think that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is you say, all right, the restrictions are here, let's try and work with them and in fact rise above it. And I think that's something also that municipalities have to take into consideration. How many hoops and hurdles have you put in the way of agritourism and farmers? So for us, you'll see that's a beautiful canopy tent. We had just under 100 guests because it was pandemic times. And that's Chef Joseph Shawana, who is Odawa, from the Manitoulin area, which is Wikwemikong unceded territory. And he is coming back this year. And we also have Michelin star chef Dr. J.P. McMahon from Galway, Ireland, as well as Chef Chris Commandant, who is Mohawk from Bala, and Chef Darius White, who is our sous chef from Akwesasne territory. We're so excited to be offering this. And it's a collaboration. It becomes a beautiful partnership. And that's, again, I've highlighted collaboration between farmers and local governments. You want to encourage those collaborations to take place. And strangely enough, even around food, in Canada, we've just gone through the Truth and Reconciliation process. The Pope, I think many of you know, was visiting here to offer an apology for residential school survivors. And I think it's so important for us as Canadians, as settlers, to acknowledge the territories that we're on, and then to look at partnerships with communities that are near us or that we've heard about. And one hurdle sometimes is the colonial imprint of the sort of the laws. So, for example, you see that Chef Joseph is cooking on an open fire. That's no problem. We put in our burn permit in time, etc. But if he had cooked wild game, we could not have actually served that and charged a fee, technically. Those rules, I think, have to be re-examined, because if an Indigenous chef is going to use wild game and you're doing an event like ours, of course you need to charge, you need to cover your costs, you need to make some money. So again, these restrictions seem so trivial, or we've never bumped up against them before. But as we expand agritourism, as Indigenous communities across Canada, for example, expand tourism, we have to make sure we're ready for that. And agritourism is a wonderful way to reach our visitors that are here and internationally. But I really, as I've highlighted there, but I've also put under, let's make things transparent. Let's have building codes, health units, insurance, marketing, financial institutions, and supports put in to make agritourism actually a viable second income for farms. And then always remember, at least in Canada, you have to be a farm first and then an agritourism destination. Possibly, it might just be from my perspective. I'm not running the Walt Disney World of farm or agritourism. And I think for most farmers, especially in our region, we're small and we really want to engage, but we are really farms first. So that said, as I pointed out earlier, we're almost in a conflict between farming practices and the most busy season for travelers. And I think governments have a real place in helping us. And organizations such as Culinary Tourism Alliance have a tremendous place to assist people, governments and farmers to work together to grow agritourism. So I'm almost at closing, and thank you for your time to speak to you. And again, thank you to Lisa and to the team, and as well to David Gillespie. This is so important. I feel there is a place for the small farms, the slow farming, as I say, and regenerative, because we are going to engage the tourist at a different level. And while we don't have any beautiful livestock, which I know people want to see a lot of times, I do think there is a place just to come. And I often say to visitors, don't listen to me. I'm talking Toronto fast talk. You're going to slow down on our farm. You're going to listen to birds. You're going to see beautiful insects that you've never seen before. And you're just going to enjoy sitting. It's sort of like on our front porch, but you're sitting in front of that small baby barn, as we call it, and just taking in nature. Certainly, I hope you will continue to take the road less traveled. It sometimes is difficult, but I really do encourage you to keep pushing the agenda of agritourism and making it work for all farmers. And thank you for listening. And that's just our little coordinates, and happy to visit with you. And please drop us a note on our website and come and visit. And thank you again.
I was to be part of that presentation, but I guess time is a little running out. So thank you. So that's all I have to say. So next presentation should go a little quicker for me. Anyways, what would you like to do at this point? Oh. Yeah, it's 3:40, right? Yeah. So we'll go to the next one. I shall let you, you wanted to start it off, so I'll leave you to it.
Here I am again. This time though, I'm really pleased to do this because David has asked me to. We started working on this 2 years ago, and as we went along, we got to know each other very well. And, we sort of gave bits and pieces of information about what we did in a recent or not so recent past. So he was, I I guess he didn't expect me to tell him that I worked at the Chateau Frontenac when I was just in college. I was working in the food and bev industry at the time, part-time, like everyone else who goes to school and needs to pay for their beers and their jeans with holes in them. Just so you know, that just didn't happen yesterday. So, and at the time, the Chateau was the most photographed hotel in the world, and I believe it might still be the case today. And before I went off to summer camp to be a camp counselor, I had time between Cégep and starting camp where I worked as a tour guide with children and students that came from Ontario. So we would take the train from Quebec City to Toronto, which took 10 hours. And then we'd spend the weekend in Toronto, which was the highlight of the whole thing. And then on Sunday morning, we'd get on the bus with 45 students and go back to Montreal and then Quebec City. Now, back then, everyone wanted to sit in the back with a boom box. Today would be very different. Everyone would be sitting on their seat with their phone and there'd be no noise at all. So I'm not sure which is best, but that's the way things were back then. So really quickly, because we have mentioned tourism, we have to mention tourisme gourmand, which at the time, that's what the Chateau was doing. And I'm just really pleased to introduce David Gillespie, who will share with us his International Culinary Trail project. It's a trail that will ultimately link Ontario, Quebec, Vermont, and New York. So it's 2 provinces, 2 states, and 2 countries. David is a passionate visionary, for those who haven't noticed that yet. As you have heard, David has worked relentlessly on this project since 2016, and he has this ability to mobilize people, and his enthusiasm is contagious and riveting. The Quebec government is proud to have partnered with Tourisme au Richelieu to help bring this dream to reality. With this International Culinary Trail, Vermont, Quebec, Ontario, and New York will celebrate the friendship and the cultural heritage that unites us. David, la parole est à vous.
Stay here with me.
Oh.
Might need her. So yes, and I'm going to put my clock here. I'm a farmer. I try to be practical. So let's see. What is this? I'm supposed to be. I'm not big on technology, so let's try it. Yes. Okay. First of all, it's a mega trail. It's, as she said, 2 countries. It's the first in the world that's really something. The periphery of it, as you'll see later, is bigger than many countries. So it's a mega trail. And I can say that as it is, it's a culinary trail in this case. So it includes value added enterprises, farmers markets, restaurants that use and promotes local products. So let me see, how do we go about this? Let's try that. Yes, there we go. So I'm just going to keep a brief history. And that's the buildup of how you see from where you start from nothing to where we are today. It actually started back in 2002 when the town mayor, the town supervisor in Keene, Tom Both, called me and said, hey, what do we do with farmers in the Adirondacks? I said, well, I don't think you can put 5,000 cow herd in the park. That's not going to go well. And so we said, well, how about some smaller farms? So I brought him up to, I called up in Quebec and the Tourism Quebec, and they related me to the Montérégie in the Naperville area. And Michel Charbonneau from the CLD says, hey, bring them on. We'll take them for a tour. So we did. They loved it. So 2 years later, we brought dignitaries from New York State. They loved it as well. Then we formed a group following that, Adirondack Harvest, which exists today. Time for Dave to leave and deal with sheep and leave them alone. And then in 2016, 12 years later, I knock on the door and say, hey, let's meet up again. So we did. In January 13, 2016, in Saint-Rémy at the UPA office, we went to New York and Montreal and Quebec and said, let's see what we can do. Hey, how about taking existing trails as a culinary trail? So we went. And we went with that, and then we expanded it. And in 2017, I had a long phone call with Chuck Ross, or Charles Ross. Is he here? Yes, there he is, standing up. 2 hours on the phone with the poor guy. So he decided he said, let's join, let's meet up. So we met in Naperville. So now he brought Lisa Chase, who you all know, with him, and he said, let's work together. So now we had Vermont. Then a few months later, we had Ontario. So that's how we were building up, just gradually. And it was going quite quickly. And then we had a first meeting in Snow Farm Winery, and it was 60 people, all different regions. We're all enthused. Let's make it happen. And then Lisa called me a few months later and said, hey, how about if you go to Italy? I hadn't left my farm in 13 years. So all of a sudden, Italy. So, okay, let's go. And next thing you know, I said, well, chances are we'll never be approved for the First World Congress. Well, next thing you know, we were going. I'm going, how did that happen? So we went there to the First World Congress in Agritourism. Both she and I and a few others spoke about the trail as a project. And then, of course, we met up in 2019 in New York State, full house, close to, I think, 100 people. We're all getting going. Then COVID hit. And of course, as you know, with COVID, everybody stays home. What do we do? The borders closed. People are changing, a lot of turnover. And we figured a few weeks, some of us, few months, no, 2 years. So, but we decided after a full year to get going as a committee. And we formed the International Culinary Trail Committee, which is the ICTC. And several of you are in this room, are part of it. And then, and we resumed it since. So what we did is connecting the dots. Okay, connecting the dots. By that, I mean, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So we took the existing trails that were in different states and put them together, because if you try and start from scratch, it's going to take forever. So it made more sense, being the farmer I am, being practical, let's take what's existing and put them together. And that's exactly what we did. And to that is the dream, I call the dream team. I formed a group of a team that I figured, wow, this is the perfect team. And that is instrumental in making anything of this size work. You've got to have a really good team. And I called it my dream team. Of all that, I've been involved with close to 100 different organizations in my life. This was the best. And could you stand up, part of my dream team? Or just so that you know. Yeah, come on, stand up, please. Not the whole room, but yeah. So they're amongst some of them. And yeah, thank you. And if it wasn't for them, this would be really, you'd hear a lot of echo, okay? There's no way you can do it alone. So, and that, like I said, is absolutely instrumental. Do not attempt to do this alone. I tried, I didn't even try. I realized really quickly that ain't gonna work. So, and what's great about them is they're humble. They got great social skills, and they really work as a team. That's so crucial. And they're very understanding of each other, of their needs. The next thing is putting a square peg in a round hole. By that, I mean, you soon discover not everybody is at the same phase. Some haven't started building a trail, but they want to. Others have done it, Montérégie, 20 years back when we celebrate, 20 plus years. And Isabelle, for Le Circuit du Paysan, for instance. Yeah, that's it. Okay, Maud, you would know. You were part of that. So, and it had won gold standard awards in that. So we used some of their criteria as templates for others. So you have to try and come to a common denominator, because otherwise, if you try and put it all together with the same standard, you'll fail. So you need to listen to each other, see what can work as a group. And then, so that's what that's about. Next. Funding, I'm going to keep that relatively short because it's in the making. But at the beginning, I figured, just work on each side from the government. And some people have told me no problems, we'll get the funding. Well, we found out it was a little more complicated. You can't just bring money across the border. They consider that fraud. So we didn't want to go there. So anyway, so I decided that, well, let's do this legitimately. So we decided it was quite complex, and I will leave it at that for now, but we've had great connections with Quebec, and I'll leave it at that because it's in progress and making. And then the next step is, yes, it takes patience and persistence. Farming has taught me that. My 5 sisters call me stubborn, but it's really persistent. And you really need that. If you don't have that, it took me really from 2016 to today. And still, we're almost there now. Like I figure by next year, we'll be there. to actually inaugurate it. So that's what I wanted to keep. I had more slides, but I figure with the time and leaving 5 minutes early with questions. And I would also like to ask either Commissioner Pelham or Secretary Tibbetts, your own experience from your own, you have your farm. And what can you say that you could relate as a story to this, if you don't mind?
Well, thank you, Nancy Tibbetts from the Agency of Agriculture. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please, can you come? Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you very much. Anson Tibbetts from the Agency of Agriculture. First of all, thank you for all spending some time in Vermont and a little corner of the world, and we appreciate you all being here this week. Hope you've learned a lot and can take it back to your regions and continue to support your communities. Yes, I just think there's a tremendous thirst out there right now for authentic experiences. And we just need to put it all together where we can offer support to our farmers and our producers and our businesses to get more people closer to the land, closer to the people, closer to the water. And of course, we can do that because we have the people that have the heart and soul to do this. It's just a matter of putting the puzzle together. And I know Vermont is committed to continue working on this with which Secretary Ross began. We're gonna keep working on this, and if it wasn't for that darn COVID, we'd be a lot further along, I'm sure. But we're gonna get there, and I appreciate your leadership, David, and everyone in Quebec, and also in Ontario, and of course our friends across the lake in New York as well. Thank you.
Yes, and would you like to add to that, Commissioner, please?
Sure. Again, just to echo what Secretary Tibbetts said, it's wonderful to have everybody here in Vermont. I'm Heather Pelham. I'm the Commissioner of Tourism and Marketing for the state of Vermont. This is a very exciting project. I am relatively new to it, so I'm learning more and more about what it can do. But really what strikes me is not only the depth of experiences that can be offered, because that's really the business that we're in, is helping people find the highest and best use of that free leisure time that they have and how much they can learn about themselves and their surroundings as they have those experiences. And it just, with all of the types of agritourism activities, it just strikes me that it really hones in on so many of the travel trends that we see about what people are really interested in. They want those, again, immersive, authentic experiences, but it's also about sustainable travel. It's about, our impact on the land. It's about customization in travel and personalization in travel, and how to have and craft an experience that is just going to be so memorable. And then really it is about connecting to what is that local experience that you can only have in that place at that time. And agritourism just really hits on every one of those aspects. And this amazing trail is going to be a wonderful way to introduce that to so many more folks. So thank you.
Oh, pleasure. I'm honored to have you both. So I see we got 2 minutes left, 2 minutes left. I want to ask you guys a question. How many of you amongst you have heard when you visited farms and you hear and you bring your family or kids or relatives and they say, oh, I remember when my uncle would take me to his farm, or I worked on my grandparents' farms. How many of you have experienced that, have heard that? Put your hands up, please. Okay, so it's pretty universal, which brings to my point is that so long as there's a demand for this, there's going to always be a need for a trail. So you're already there. It can happen. If you haven't got a trail, it's possible. Just make sure you connect with the right people. And once you have a trail, make sure you just don't sit on your laurels, say it's over. No, it's dynamic. It's not static. Okay. And it's going to keep evolving or evolutionizing. And that's Marjorie had told me that. And I said, that's a good word. And so, make sure that, that you keep, it's going to be constantly evolving. And so you need to be up to date on things. People's tastes change, their cultures change, demography. So you really have to keep following it up. Like when we're out there next year and we hopefully inaugurate it, we're going to keep following it because it ain't over. Okay. So we're at 5 to 4. We're supposed to leave. Is there any, I've got time for maybe one question or comment. Yep.
Can you wait? Sorry, can you wait, please? Because they can't hear you online. Oh, sorry.
Oh, thank you, David. I know we had the time together yesterday. You explained us more details, but I forgot to ask you, how do you get people, involved in or become part of this? Are they going to be a member? Like, how do you get those farmers engaged in being part of this?
Yeah, you mean as
Thank you.
You mean as part of the committee or as part of the, sorry, on the farm?
The whole becoming, let's say, a community of this trail, like you mentioned, this journey that you guys have. Like,
Right.
I'm talking about how they are going to get their farm involved in this.
Well, what they need to do is contact their community leaders, their farm organizations, tourism associations. There's all kinds of ways, and they need to relate back to them. That's how you start. Otherwise, you can't. I mean, you need to connect. That's the key. It's that simple.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So that's it. We're out of time. So we have to head down to where we all ate.
Adirondack room.
Okay, where there's food usually. So, okay. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to have you here. Thank you.